Elizabeth Keckley's talent as a seamstress not only freed her from slavery, but also earned her a job in the White House as the dresser and confidante of Mary Todd Lincoln. Public historian Andrew Wonko shares her story.
One of the most fascinating life stories of any St. Louisan is perfectly summed up in the subtitle of her autobiography, 30 Years a Slave and 4 Years in the White House. Those divisions of time and life experience separated out the life of Elizabeth Keckley, but what's even more amazing than their contrast is the personal determination she had that caused them to happen. Elizabeth Keckley was born into slavery in Virginia in 1818, and throughout her young life she suffered horrific abuse at the hands of her enslavers. In 1847, she had been transferred to the Garland family, and they brought her along to St. Louis when they moved here seeking fortune. They had hoped to make big bucks in the boomtown of St. Louis, but they actually only found lots of personal debt. And seeking a way to make money, they turned to Elizabeth Keckley's skills as a seamstress as a primary source of the family's income. As word spread around St. Louis about the incredible and exquisite dresses that Elizabeth Keckley was producing, she built up a massive waiting list of clients made up of St. Louis's wealthy white elite citizens. Elizabeth Keckley later recalled that with her needle, she put bread in the mouths of 17 people for 2.5 years. Keckley was not just providing an income for the Garland family and the 9 other people that they held in slavery, she was also saving up her own money on the side. By 1855, she had saved up $1,200, that's the equivalent of about $37,000 today, and was able to purchase freedom for herself and her son George. For the next 5 years, they stayed in St. Louis, continuing to make dresses and build up wealth, and in 1860, Keckley moved to Washington, D.C. to open a dressmaking shop catering to the political elite of the country. On the day of President Abraham Lincoln's presidential inauguration, Elizabeth Keckley was introduced to the brand new First Lady, Mary Todd Lincoln. Mary Todd was a huge fan of Keckley's sophisticated, clean dresses and invited Keckley to become her personal dresser. She also became Mary Todd Lincoln's close confidant and sat in on private family moments in the Lincoln White House for the next 4 years. When Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in 1865, Keckley traveled along with Mary Todd and the children to Illinois, and she was one of very few people who was given some of Abraham Lincoln's personal effects after his death. In 1868, Elizabeth Keckley published her autobiography titled Behind the Scenes, or 30 Years a Slave and 4 Years in the White House. The book was a huge hit, and it provided this incredible look into Elizabeth Keckley's life growing up on a southern plantation and the time she spent in St. Louis. But it actually invited an incredible amount of scandal and criticism because it gave these juicy details into the private personal lives of the Lincoln family. This was in an era when all of life's messy details were supposed to be socially suppressed as much as possible, and here she was talking about the top family in the country. The criticism was especially ferocious because she was a black woman talking about a white family from the country's elite. While today we would look at Elizabeth Keckley's writings about Mary Todd Lincoln with a more relatable honesty, that she was both a loving mother and also a person who suffered from anxiety and depression, in the moment this was incredibly scandalous. While the first people to pick up Elizabeth Keckley's autobiography were flipping through just to get to the juicy details about the Lincoln family, time has completely changed that, and we now look to her autobiography as an incredible source of information about her life as an enslaved woman and the kind of things she faced growing up in St. Louis and beyond. Elizabeth Keckley continued to make dresses up through the 1890s, and she passed away in 1907 in Washington, D.C.
To learn more about the Missouri Historical Society, visit mohistory.org.